To move the amendment. Mr Maginness.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I rise to move the amendment. Could I say that this motion is as hypocritical and as prejudiced as the march that it purports to criticise? Could I also say, Mr Speaker, that the reality here is that what we are witnessing with this backbench motion from the DUP is an exercise in political therapy. It is to comfort them, to reassure them that the old certainties of the old politics are still about. But of course the reality is we've moved on, Mr Speaker. Mr McCausland's colleague, Mr Causland's leader, shares the First and Deputy First Ministership with Martin Maginness, member of Sinn Féin. It is now Sinn Féin DUP. That's the reality of the situation. We have Sinn Féin DUP government. And I think it's important that members on the backbenches of the DUP realise that. They can produce these sort of political gimmicks. They can produce these motions that make them feel happy and comfortable, that gives them a sort of orange glow in their tummies, that they believe that they are still in the trenches. But I'm afraid that day is gone. We now have a power-sharing administration in which they are involved with Sinn Féin and other parties, but primarily between the two of them. And it is time for grown-up politics. It is time that people in this chamber in particular, the backbenches, the DUP, realised that there is a new dispensation. I will certainly, yes.
The member has alluded, I think, 3 times in his contribution so far to the term backbench motion. I think he should understand that the motion has the unanimous support of all MLAs on the DUP benches. And does he accept that there is no mutual exclusivism from what he has said about what exists at the moment in here, and reminding people of their vicious, sectarian, murderous past?
The member rightly says, or gives information to say, that this is has the unanimous support of the DUP. That may well be. There's no ministers here. I doubt if any minister will contribute. And of course, there is an element, in fact, a very strong element of phony warfare about this chamber. And the reality is this, that this sort of adventure, primarily by the backbench members, the DUP, is permitted in order to keep the troops happy and in order to keep your support base happy back at home. Because the reality is this, that we are in a transition period and people don't want the boat rocked. So the leadership of your party allows this sort of thing to happen. But the reality is this, you are in coalition government, and the sooner you waken up to that, the better. The motion itself is selective because only 2 years ago we had the September riots in Belfast, where guns were brought out by paramilitaries, and there was very little criticism coming from these benches. Very little. In Belfast City Council, where I was a member at the time, very, very little. Yes, I'll take.
I mean, that Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, is totally inaccurate. As Alban knows, and is it in order?
It's not a valid point of order. Ask the member to take a seat. Mr. Maginness.
Indeed, as a result of the police action, members of the DUP and other unionist parties removed themselves from the DPP in Belfast. That wasn't showing support for the police in very difficult circumstances. And it may well be that there was superficial criticism of the riots. But the reality, Mr. Speaker, was that it was very, very restrained indeed. And in terms of paramilitary displays, and indeed in terms of orange marches that have paramilitary displays or paramilitary associations, there very rarely any criticism, if any, by members of the DUP. That's the reality of the situation, Mr. Speaker, and anybody's free to check that in the newspapers and television transcripts and all the rest. Selectivity is at the heart of this motion. Selectivity. But not just selectivity on the part of the DUP, but selectivity on the part of Sinn Féin. They called it a march for truth. But I would put it to this chamber that Sinn Féin's march for truth is a very, very selective one. Truth in relation to the army, truth in relation to the RUC, but what about truth in relation to the IRA itself? What about the truth in relation to people like Steakknife? What about the truth in relation to the murder of Jean McConville? What about the truth in relation to the Abercorn bombing? What about the truth in relation to the deaths of IRA men at Loughgall? These are all issues in which Sinn Féin and the IRA do not want to get involved in. And the reason for that is that they are selective. Yes, let's march for truth and let's find out the truth of what happened during the Troubles. We have nothing to hide. We want to see the truth. And let us unite in this chamber to have a total truth recovery mechanism. Let all parties support that, and let Sinn Féin in particular support that. The reality is that both parties are selective in relation to the truth, and both parties are selective in relation to criticising paramilitary activity. Sinn Féin, if this had been a UDA demonstration, Sinn Féin would certainly have criticised it. If it had been a UVF one, they would have criticised it. If it had been a DUP one, they would have criticised it. The reality is this, that any form of paramilitary display is to be condemned. Gerry Adams referred to this as a piece of street theatre. Well, those that witnessed it, those that saw it on television didn't see it like that. They found it frightening, they found it intimidating, and they would not have regarded it as theatre at all. I have witnessed orange marches past the Ardoyne shops. Is that supposed to be street theatre? Could somebody describe that as street theatre? With the terrible sectarian overtones of that type of march? It is certainly not street theatre. And to describe this March for Truth as street theatre is to misrepresent it. The reality is that it was triumphalist. The reality is that it was intimidatory. The reality is that it, in effect, was perverting the truth, not discovering the truth. And that, I believe, was very wrong indeed. Our town centres, indeed our towns, our villages, should be shared spaces. There is no room for paramilitary displays. There is no room for anything like that in our society. And we must genuinely share them. But we must not be selective in our condemnation of those who transgress that sharing of our open spaces, our common spaces within our towns. That's the reality of the situation. And I believe that we should be supportive of a shared society. And part of that is being tolerant of free expression. But there are limits on the way in which you express yourself. If you go out of your way to intimidate people, if you go out of your way to express any form of paramilitarism, you are not in any way servicing or giving good service to the whole community. Therefore, I propose the amendment before you because I believe that this amendment does away with the selectivity of the DUP motion because it draws attention to the fact that we must genuinely share our society and because it condemns all forms of paramilitarism in its totality. I beg to move.
Call Jennifer McCann.